border crisis. Over the last 4 years, the U.S. has seen the largest immigration surge in history, averaging more than 2 million migrants a year from all around the world in search of the American dream. And 2024 was no different. The year began with more controversial moves by Texas Governor Greg Abbott to relieve some of the burden placed on cities in his state by transporting migrants to sanctuary cities like Washington, D.C., New York, Chicago, and Denver. Texas spending an estimated $200 million this year exporting migrants to cities with nowhere to go. And during it all, a shocking move by Congress, who voted to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over his handling of the border crisis.
The greatest domestic threat to the national security and the safety of the American people is Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
The Senate later dismissing the impeachment, deeming it unconstitutional. Meanwhile, the Justice Department sued Texas, claiming the state's new immigration law violated the Constitution. Under the law, Texas police would have been allowed to arrest migrants suspected of illegally entering the U.S. A federal judge blocked that law. But the state would ultimately be the victor and start arresting on the state level for criminal trespass. This as the Biden administration was told it could take down razor wire installed by Texas that was meant to keep illegal immigrants out. And NewsNation was there to capture exclusive video of smugglers destroying barbed wire fencing to get illegal immigrants across the border. Drones, wire, walls, buoys, pepper balls. The fight to control illegal entry into the United States took on renewed urgency as migrants found new ways to access illegal entry into the country. And Mexican officials conducted operations on freight trains to stop thousands of migrants from riding train cars to the U.S. border. But the fight to control the border made harder by the cartel. Crime exploding as groups of masked gunmen kidnapped migrants, participated in human trafficking, transported guns and drugs across the border, including deadly fentanyl. The violence playing out in U.S. border towns before moving north. In New York, outside a migrant center in Times Square, shocking video of a brutal attack on New York police officers by a group of migrants, as a notorious Venezuelan gang called Tren de Aragua infiltrated America's cities and towns, even being given the green light to fire at officers in New York and Colorado. In Aurora, they took over an apartment building, toting guns and terrorizing residents and bringing with them a narcotics empire. This year also saw the horrific death of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley, the 22-year-old killed by an undocumented immigrant with ties to TDA, who entered the U.S. illegally 2 years ago, bringing even more attention to the debate over border laws. NewsNation was there as the Take Our Border Back convoy, also known as God's Army, made their way to the southern border. They started in Virginia with stops in Florida and Louisiana before arriving in Texas to raise awareness about the crisis on the border.
We're a nation of immigrants, but we have to have security at our border and know who's coming in.
And dueling trips to the southern border by President Biden and former President Trump, now President-elect Trump, emphasizing the importance of the border issue to the presidential election.
It is the #1 issue.
And NewsNation getting an exclusive look into the dangers border agents face hunting down migrant smugglers. A chopper crash during a routine operation near the U.S.-Mexico border, leaving 3 guardsmen dead. Only 1 soldier survived. And a NewsNation exclusive uncovered the amazing story of a teen who barely escaped capture by the cartel. And a so-called migrant influencer on TikTok was arrested after going viral for helping migrants take advantage of American laws, protecting squatters. And a riot on the border. In El Paso, more than 400 migrants tore down razor fencing and rushed National Guard troops at the gate, injuring Texas National Guard members. Roughly 200 migrants were arrested. And we saw rampant smuggling on the border. A Texas Guard soldier accused of trying to smuggle 2 migrants into the U.S. in exchange for $5,000. And it was all caught on camera. And scenes like this man with a gun strapped to his body occurring. This just one of 10 separate seizures at Arizona's Port of Nogales. Cash, guns, including more than a dozen AK-style rifles, and drugs like fentanyl, meth, and 160 pounds of cocaine seized at the border. And a mistrial for Arizona rancher George Allen Kelly, accused of shooting an unarmed Mexican man on his property. And we brought you a border special with a trip back to several of the stories that captured the nation's attention, including the humanitarian crisis and the fight to keep the cartel with its drugs out of America.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.